Hello, collectors! It's Steven here with a review of the first entry in the SH MonsterArts Kou Kyou Kyoku line, Godzilla 1989. Kou Kyou Kyoku translates into light, sound, and music, which are the main selling points of this figure. Loaded with gimmicks, this large SH MonsterArts figure is commanding the attention of the kaiju collector community. But is this figure worth the spotlight, or is it overhyped? Sit back, relax, get a snack, and enjoy the ride as we take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. So let me give you a bit of a trigger warning if you haven't expected it already. I'm going to be completely honest throughout the review, and when we're talking about how the figure looks, I have to ask what exactly Bandai was thinking. Sakai was once again brought on board to get this big lug sculpted, and undoubtedly he did a wonderful job, but when it comes to the paint, there are just so many dropped balls, it's really sad. The face actually looks really nice, and the fierce sculpt reminds me of the old children's books, Who's Afraid of Godzilla and Godzilla Likes to Roar. From these initial shots though, one issue should really stick out to you: the teeth. They are painted really sloppy with bleed over from the gums and random gray and red splotches on them. The eye decals, however, are great, though some may argue that they're a tad bit cartoonish, but to each their own there. The sculpt for the chest is wonderful, with an interesting spray on it giving it an earthy look around the sternum. That's where you can really see it the most. The claws on the hands, however, are a bit mixed. The shading is okay, but the transitions over to the actual hands, the skin, they're rather abrupt, and it doesn't look like it's an even coating there. Continuing with this area of the body, the biceps are nice and bulky, and they're executed wonderfully. The rest of Godzilla's body sculpt is nice, with random spray being a bit more apparent here, really bringing out that nice color for Godzilla and giving it a nice depth to it. The claws on the feet really don't look good, especially on mine, with notable QC paint drips. Yuck. Now, the dorsal plates. What a dumb hanger. The three center rows of plates look nice. They're translucent and painted well enough with random rubs on the tips, at least on mine. However, up on the back of the neck and the outer rows, the rest of the plates have really poorly applied paint. It looks like they just took a paintbrush and covered them as much as possible without any sort of variation to them. To be honest, it looks cheap, and it looks a bit worse than the first MonsterArts. As it continues on down the tail, however, in some spots, it's so thick it almost looks like it's a different color up close and in hand. To be honest, I don't know why they cut the corners for the paint, but it really does affect the final product. Alright, for articulation, Godzilla is, well, it's a bit limited, but considering the gimmicks, it sort of makes sense. So what do we have? We have the jaw. It opens and closes. It looks like it's just a hinge, which makes sense since, it lights up. We have the head, which is attached into the neck on a ball joint, but what's interesting enough, as you turn the head here, you'll see that the mouth hinge likes to close. Yeah, pretty interesting. But anyway, we have the head, which attaches into the neck on a ball joint, and we have a few other ball joints here in the neck, so this way you can move the head around a little bit. Side-to-side movement is definitely there, as you can hear it squeaking, but not too much. So if you're expecting normal MonsterArts movement, you're not going to get it from this figure. We have ball-jointed shoulders here. As you can see, you can move Godzilla's arms around. Spin around all the way if you want. However, side-to-side movement pretty much isn't there, but what is interesting, I found, is that pretty much all of the ball joints are lubed for her pleasure. This is probably so it doesn't get stuck or break off, because this is a very fragile figure with a whole bunch of intricate parts in it, like wires and whatnot, so yeah, we don't want the kiddies breaking this. So we do have bicep swivels, as you can see here. Spin it around. Pretty squeaky. Something to be really mindful of though, since you can't really move the arms out from side to side. You don't want to spin the biceps around too much because it's going to grind up against the sculpt, and yeah, you're just going to damage it. The elbows are on hinges, and look at that. You can really stretch those arms out, so that's pretty cool. There's also a little bit of a swivel there. Hands, the wrists are on ball joints. For the ab crunch, there really isn't an ab crunch. Yeah. Sometimes the effects will go off. But we do have a little hinge here and a little swivel. So you get some movement, but not too much there. Continuing on down, we have ball-jointed hips, but much like the first MonsterArts Godzilla, not too much movement forward and back. You are going to grind up against the sculpt once again. And see, ball joints like to pop off. Fix that. There we go. Hinge knees. As you can see here, 2 points, one in the thigh and one in the shin area. No, not Shin Godzilla. But unfortunately, the right one on mine doesn't really like to move that much. We have ball-jointed ankles, which actually have a lot of movement I was really surprised by. And then moving down to the tail, it's pretty much all segmented all the way up here to the tip. So you're going to get a lot of movement out of the tail. But yeah, mine likes to pop off for some godforsaken reason. Anyway, articulation, it's pretty solid, but don't expect this to be on birth version levels of articulation. Set your standards a little bit lower, and you might be surprised. Some cool poses, but not amazing. Godzilla doesn't come with any accessories, but he does come with some features. The ability to roar, play music, and light up. To get Godzilla to do so, you'll first need to insert batteries. Godzilla's upper torso pops off at the waist, and underneath him is a little hatch you need to unscrew to put in 3 LR44 batteries. After this, turn the switch on, pop Godzilla's torso back on, and you're ready to go. If you need help finding the batteries, there's a link to them on Amazon in the description below. Now, for the effects, unfortunately, I don't think they're done very well. For reference, mainly for you audio junkies, all sounds are captured with a Shure SM57 microphone placed roughly half a centimeter away from the speaker with minor amplification in WavePad Sound Editor. First, the roars. They're activated by pressing down this dorsal plate here on the back of the neck. This also activates the lights in the music. Just press down the dorsal plate once and release to get a random roar. Godzilla features 3 of them, with a deep one, a normal one, and a long one. One more time, all together. They sound alright, a bit muffled, but in the room they're rather soft, and it's not too loud, but loud enough where you can hear them. Next we have the light up feature. Press the dorsal plate repeatedly and you get 2 different versions, one shorter one and one longer one. Now, some are reporting 3 versions, 2 shorter ones and one longer one, but timing it, the dorsal plates flash the same amount of times, and the mouth fires off for the same duration. So I don't know what's different between these 2 shorter ones. But anyway, for the short version of it, you get 2 bursts from the dorsal plates, and then the mouth fires off. And then for the longer one, you'll see. Let's take a look. First, the shorter one. Like I said, the dorsal plates flash. And then the mouth fires off. Now, let's take a look at that in the complete dark. As you can see here, it does look a bit better in the darkness. Now, the longer one. The dorsal plates light up. And then the mouth fires off. Now, in darkness. For the longer effect, the plates actually flash at the same time the mouth lights up. So let's take a look at just the firing portion together in light. Now in dark. As you can see, when the 2 are lit up at the same time, the mouth and dorsal plates tend to weaken and flicker until it's about to stop, where there's a flash of light at the end. The way the light up feature works is actually interesting. Godzilla's upper torso has this plate in it which houses the LEDs which flash. This lights up the dorsal plates on the lower portion of the body, which are made of translucent plastic. Interesting, but the lights have a wide range of quality between the different units. There are some which are really bright and they're very vibrant, and others are completely dull. Keep in mind, cameras are very funny, fickle things. Depending on your settings, you can get this figure to look really weak with the lights, or to make it look much stronger. And some pictures may depict the light as completely purely blue instead of a white-blue mixture. Generally, the light up feature is truly rather weak, and it could be better. Just make sure you're not focusing on one specific picture to get a reference for how the light up features work. Lastly, we get music. Press and hold the dorsal plate down to get one of two pieces of music to play, and press it and hold it again to cancel at any time. We get the main theme from Versus Biollante, and we get the theme of Godzilla versus the super weapons. It plays the pieces nearly entirely, but for the purposes of this review, I'll play them for just a little bit. Let's take a listen. Now, what's interesting is that you can press the dorsal plate again to get Godzilla to roar or fire his beam while the music is playing. But when you do press the dorsal plate to get him to roar while the music is playing, you just might get stomping sounds. Pretty cool. All in all though, these feel like cheap gimmicks instead of a real selling point for the figure, and I really feel like $200 only went for half of the effort for these effects. More on this in the conclusion of the review. And here's the size comparison for you. As I said, this is quite the big figure and he's in his own scale. If you had plans to display him with other MonsterArts, sorry. Even Biollante, when stretched out as far as she can, is out of scale. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Sculpt is nice, paint isn't, articulation is fair given the gimmicks, but the gimmicks in and of themselves are just alright. This really seems like a kid's toy with bells and whistles aimed at adults, the same thing in a different packaging. The roars are completely random, as are the beam effects he's going to fire off, and the stomping effect is only available with the music. Whoever thought it was a good idea to not have the lights be able to stay on whenever you want them to, and not be able to choose which roar you want to play, was not really thinking about the consumer here. At damn near $200, Bandai is really asking for a lot and not giving us a $200 product in return. I asked a few friends who are kind of familiar with Godzilla and collectibles to give me a price on this guy. Prices ranged from about $125 to $150. They thought $189.99 was absurd, and to be honest, so do I. If you can find it for, let's say, $150 max, you're getting a great deal and you're getting what this is worth. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the figure is bad. I'm saying it's not as good as some want it to be or as some are making it out to be. If you're a fan of Biogoji, it's a great representation, really fantastic in that regard. But don't go into this thinking it's in the running for Figure of the Year. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below to share your thoughts. If you're interested in picking this figure up, or others like it, check the description for some cool links to take you where you need to go. Why don't you watch some more videos? Click the annotations on the screen now for more great content. Thanks again, and I'll catch ya in the next video.